Deep in Montana's rugged Bitterwood Valley, retired rancher Sarah Caldwell quietly tends to her horses and famous rhubarb pies. To her neighbors, she's just another gentle face in town, a friendly presence at the local diner and Sunday church gatherings. But behind Sarah's humble smile lies a legendary past, the deadliest Marine sniper ever known as Ghost Lynx, a name whispered in military circles with reverence and fear. Now, a ruthless outlaw gang called Bane's Outlaws, led by the merciless Logan Viper Morrow, is threatening her land, terrorizing friends, and shaking down local veterans for their homes. But these thugs picked the wrong town and definitely the wrong woman to intimidate tonight. Sarah's old Marine instincts reawaken, ready to protect the American values she once fought for overseas. If you cherish stories of bravery, patriotism, and true grit, stay tuned. You won't believe how this showdown ends. Subscribe now and join us in honoring those who refuse to surrender. Montana's Bitterwood Valley stretched out in gentle slopes and ragged pine forests, a landscape equally peaceful and unforgiving. At dawn, Sarah Caldwell made her usual rounds along the fences of the modest ranch she co-owned with her husband Mark. To every neighbor, Sarah was just a quiet rancher's wife, known for her well-tended horses and first-prize rhubarb pies. Few would guess she had once been Ghost Lynx, the deadliest sniper in the Marine Corps with 84 confirmed kills in missions so clandestine that even the reports were locked behind layers of redacted text. Sarah had found solace in Bitterwood Valley after retiring from the Marines. For over a decade, she and Mark nurtured the land, plowing fields, breeding horses, and forging friendships within the close-knit community of ranchers and local business owners. Yet as the days turned cold that autumn, a new presence disrupted the valley's quiet. A motorcycle gang called Bane's Outlaws, led by the imposing Logan Viper, Morrow had begun riding through town and prowling around local properties. Rumor had it that they were making suspiciously generous offers to buy ranches, but only after intimidating the owners into selling cheap one brisk morning. Sarah heard the rumble of motorcycles echo off the distant hills. Three bikes emerged from the main road and slowed near her ranch's wooden gate. She paused by a loose fence post, tools in one hand, gazed discreetly studying them. She recognized the black leather vests and the distinctive red devil insignia of Bane's Outlaws. Mark's voice traveled from the barn fence. "Giving you any more trouble?" he called. She kept her tone calm. "Just a bit. We'll fix it in summer if it holds until then." She could sense Mark's concern. 20 years of marriage had taught him to notice the subtle tension in her voice. In turn, Sarah sensed his frustration at these repeated drive-bys. This was not the first time the bikers had slowed to stare at their property. Inside the house, the radio hummed with local news, further mention of ranches sold below market value. Mark set down the newspaper on the kitchen table, shaking his head. "Doris Anderson sold her ranch for half of its real value," he said. She never talked about leaving, not until Bane's Outlaws came into the picture. Sarah glanced out the window. Another pair of motorcycles rumbled down the main road. "They're running a textbook intimidation routine," she murmured. "Looking for weaknesses, testing our willingness to stand our ground." The bikes slowed at the driveway, their riders scanning vantage points, barn windows, tractor sheds, even the orchard in the back. One of them, big and broad-shouldered, peeled away to follow a pickup truck, turning onto the road toward town. Later that same morning, Sarah discovered her friend, Dr. Helen Carter, the local veterinarian and general practitioner, pulled over near a ditch just outside the ranch. Two bikers flanked her truck. From the porch, Sarah could see them leaning in the window, exchanging heated words. Their leather vests bore the same patch, and from her vantage, she made out half of a menacing threat. "Your clinic lease is up soon. Doc better talk to the landlord. Hate for that fancy new equipment of yours to get misplaced." Helen managed to drive off, trembling when she finally reached Sarah's gravel driveway. Mark offered her some water and ushered her inside. I can't believe this," Helen stammered. "They said if I don't cooperate, the clinic's permit might fail inspections. Better to be safe than sorry," they said. Sarah's keen mind pieced it together. The Outlaws' intimidation wasn't just about farmland. They were zeroing in on every business that mattered. Clinics feed stores, local shops, an entire community under siege. By the next day, the situation escalated. Sarah learned from Deputy Jordan Wyatt, one of the few honest officers in the valley that local officials, notably Sheriff Nichols, seemed uncharacteristically passive. Reports of threats and vandalism were being dismissed as random mischief. Meanwhile, property after property was selling for suspicious sums, names of new owners hidden behind corporate shell companies. That evening, Sarah listened at the old shortwave radio in her study, an unusual tension in her posture. Mark recognized it instantly. She was returning to the mindset she once had during her deployments, focused, meticulous, ready for a fight. Sarmark murmured using his affectionate shorthand. She exhaled softly. I know how they operate. First intimidation, then buyouts. If that fails, they escalate to violence. We need to prepare. It didn't take long for that next step to materialize. In broad daylight, a group of outlaws cornered Jill Parker, who ran the local grocery store, demanding protection payments. When Jill refused, they smashed shelves and threatened her teenage daughter. The entire town began feeling the ripple of fear, except Sarah Caldwell refused to be cowed. Late one afternoon, the roar of half a dozen motorcycles broke the ranch's calm. Mark, returning from an errand in town, pulled up in his truck with 3 outlaws on his tail. Sarah stepped off the porch as they parked, postured, timid enough to pass as a non-threat. However, her eyes flicked from rider to rider, automatically mapping possible angles of attack. Logan Viper, Morrow himself, climbed off a custom bike, imposing in his stance. 2 enforcers, Phantom and Goliath, lingered behind him, with poorly concealed firearms. Evening, Mrs. Caldwell. Viper said, voice oily with false courtesy, I hear you and your husband might be open to a sale. Sarah feigned uncertainty. My husband usually handles the finances? Is that why you're here? Viper smiled like a wolf. That's exactly why we're here. Goliath lifted his jacket casually, revealing the butt of a pistol. Sarah's muscles tensed, but her face remained carefully guarded. She watched, noted, stored the detail for later. That orchard out back is prime real estate, Viper continued. My associates and I represent a development group. We'd give you more than a fair price. At that moment, Dr. Helen Carter pulled into the driveway, having finished her rounds. The outlaws turned to glare at the unexpected visitor. The vet hopped out, face drawn in worry. You folks doing all right? She asked, not quite masking her anger. Viper, faintly amused, dipped his head in greeting. The good doctor. My men have been meaning to talk to you about your clinic, too. Helen's jaw clenched. Goliath stepped forward menacingly, but a flick of Viper's hand held him back. We'll let you fine people think it over, Viper announced, stepping back onto his bike. Don't take too long. This is a limited time offer. They revved their engines and rode off, dust swirling in their wake. Helen let out a long breath. They came by the clinic again, she admitted. Said it'd be a shame if the new X-ray machine got accidentally damaged. Sarah nodded. They're covering every angle, but they made one mistake. They think we're easy prey. Helen glanced at Mark, then back at Sarah. You're not planning to, well, do what you used to do, are you? Sarah's expression hardened. I left that life behind, but if they force my hand, she didn't need to say more. Everyone in that living room had a nagging sense that the storm was about to break, and only a few truly understood just how dangerous Sarah Caldwell could be. That night, Sarah and Mark headed to a storage unit in town, one they never mentioned, filled with items from a life Sarah no longer spoke of. Military-grade observation gear, specialized rifles, field kits, gathering dust waiting. Because if Bain's outlaws wanted to threaten her home, they were about to discover why some of America's worst enemies still had nightmares about the sniper they never saw coming. Tensions spread like wildfire across Bitterwood Valley. Over the next week, Bain's outlaws increased their patrols, roaring down Main Street in columns of bikes. Locals were harassed at every turn. Some gave in to intimidation, accepting paltry sums for their land. Others tried to stand firm only to find their windows smashed or their livestock gone missing the next day. Deputy Jordan Wyatt discreetly shared updates with Sarah. I've never seen Sheriff Nichols back down like this. He's ignoring half the complaints. People suspect he's taking bribes, or worse, from hidden trail cameras around the ranch. Sarah collected video evidence. Outlaws meeting unmarked trucks at abandoned logging sites, men unloading crates with military markings. Through her old networks, she discovered that these markings corresponded to advanced arms equipment meant for black market sale. And the outlaws were not alone. They had the backing of ex-military contractors With each passing day, the group's strong-arm tactics escalated. At the local grocery store, Jill Parker was forced to pay insurance fees. At the feed supply, the elderly owner who resisted ended up in the hospital with broken ribs. The final straw came when Dr. Helen Carter's clinic was vandalized, her new X-ray machine destroyed beyond repair. Mysterious men in tactical gear were spotted leaving the premises. In Sarah's kitchen, a meeting of sorts took shape. Dr. Carter, Jill Parker, Deputy Wyatt, and Mark all gathered quietly, discussing how to protect the town. Sarah spread out a map of Bitterwood Valley, highlighting known outlaw routes, suspicious activity near the old lumber mill, and strange visits at midnight to a rundown railroad spur. Jordan Wyatt tapped the map. "I've followed them to the sawmill up here. They unload crates and store them overnight before transferring them north. We suspect they're running heavy arms, but we need more proof." Sarah nodded thoughtfully. Heavy arms plus intimidation. They're building a corridor, smuggling routes from Mexico or the coastline funneled through these quiet ranch roads. We're just an inconvenient obstacle they need to buy off or scare away. Jill swallowed hard. If people keep selling out, the Outlaws will own half this valley. They'll have unchecked control. Mark, who had been listening intently, spoke up. "Why not get federal agencies involved?" Helen's face tightened. "I tried calling state authorities about the clinic. They stonewalled me. Word is that Nichols is telling them it's just minor vandalism." Jordan exhaled in frustration. "We need direct evidence linking them to the arms trade. Or force them to escalate until an outside agency has to intervene," Sarah said quietly. All eyes turned to her. Mark's brow furrowed. "You mean bait them out? They're not just an outlaw gang. There's money from somewhere, big private military perhaps. If we rattle them enough, they'll make mistakes." Sarah's features bore the cool composure of her old sniper days. "Once they reveal the broader conspiracy, the feds won't be able to ignore it." Helen's phone buzzed. "Speak of the devil," she muttered. Another intimidation run. They're heading to the ranches near the North Road, presumably to lean on owners who haven't sold yet. Sarah stood gathering her jacket. "That's Annie Howell's place. She's alone out there." Jordan's eyes glinted with concern. "I'm in. Let's at least be there if they show." The group dispersed, each with a role. Jill would keep watch at the store. Mark would manage communications from the ranch, patching calls to outside contacts Sarah had revived from her Marine connections. Helen would do her best to treat any injuries while quietly documenting the Outlaws' every threat. Sarah and Jordan drove separately toward Annie Howell's property. Sure enough, they arrived to find two heavily customized bikes parked at the front fence. One was Goliath's. The other belonged to a grim-faced enforcer named Storm, known for short tempers and quick trigger fingers. Annie cowered on her porch as Goliath hammered on the door with large fists. Jordan, wearing her deputy's uniform, stepped out of her car, hand hovering near her holster. "Gentlemen, is there a problem?" Storm gave a mocking laugh. "Just a friendly chat with Miss Howell. You law dogs got no business interfering." Sarah exited her truck deliberately, letting them see just a slender ranch wife. Storm's gaze flickered over her, unconcerned. "You need to leave, Jordan. Commanded fighting to project official authority." Goliath scowled, towering over the deputy. "Or what?" From behind him, Annie looked pleadingly at Sarah. The Outlaw's presence, the broken windows, the hateful graffiti scrawled across the barn. This was a campaign of terror. Before Goliath could finish his threat, Sarah stepped up. "She told you to leave," she said simply. "Storm, spit in the dirt. Get back in your truck." Lady Sarah's eyes narrowed. Last warning. Goliath raised his arm as if to shove Sarah aside. In a flash so quick Jordan almost missed it. Sarah seized Goliath's wrist, twisted, and forced him off balance. He landed hard on a porch step. Storm lurched forward, but Jordan blocked his path. Hand on her gun, a tense standoff. Goliath scrambled up, blinking in shock. The men took in Sarah's unwavering gaze, a depth of calm that hinted she was no random rancher. "We'll remember this," Goliath growled. They backed off, started their bikes, and roared away, spitting gravel. Annie sobbed in relief. "Thank you," she told them both. "They've been coming every other day, demanding I sell." Sarah scanned the property. She saw the twisted fence, bullet holes in a barn window. She recognized a strategy of fear designed to strip families of everything. Driving back, Jordan's police radio crackled with half-suppressed calls. Another violent confrontation at the diner, one more at the feed store. The Outlaws were stepping up their aggression, presumably because some hidden power demanded results. That night, Sarah rigged advanced surveillance gear around the Caldwell Ranch. Motion sensors, night vision cameras, encrypted radios. From an old trunk, she retrieved a well-maintained sniper rifle. Mark watched her with a mixture of awe and worry. "I never thought you'd need that again," he said softly. She ran a hand over the barrel. "Neither did I," they prepared in silence. As tension thickened in the valley, news trickled in multiple suspicious trucks, heading toward the old lumber mill, rumored deals between Viper Morrow and men in black SUVs carrying foreign plates. Something far bigger than land grabs or petty extortion was unfolding here. Finally, the moment arrived. A frantic late-night call from Jill Parker. A convoy of bikes and SUVs just passed the store heading north toward the mill. "Must be at least 20 men. This is bigger than anything they've done so far. I can't imagine they're just checking on property." Sarah donned a dark jacket, nodded once to Mark. "Time to see what they're truly up to." She drove a back road to a ridge overlooking the mill. Hidden among trees, she assembled her rifle and peered through the high-powered scope. What she saw chilled her crates bearing military stencils, men unloading heavy weapons rifles with scopes, possibly even anti-armor tech. And there giving orders was Viper Morrow, beside a tall, scarred ex-soldier in civilian tactical gear. The bigger story was crystal clear. Bain's Outlaws were serving as local muscle safeguarding an illegal arms pipeline. Land intimidation was just a stepping stone, ensuring they controlled roads and facilities needed for the smuggling route. Sarah's breath stayed, even her mind clicking into that old lethal clarity. The next phase of her plan unrolled in her head. She would not face them alone. This would require federal involvement. But to get it, she needed to hand them the biggest possible evidence on a silver platter. She quietly backed away, rifle in hand. The time for passive observation was ending. If Viper and his conspirators believed the folks of Bitterwood Valley would fold, they were about to learn a final dangerous truth. You never back a legendary Marine sniper into a corner. A sense of foreboding settled over Bitterwood Valley. Locals barricaded doors at night. A hush fell over the diner, the grocery store, even the church basement, where some began whispering about leaving for good. Meanwhile, Bain's Outlaws roamed in more menacing packs, as though spoiling for a decisive showdown. Sarah spent her nights cross-referencing photographs from her hidden cameras with intelligence gleaned from her old military contacts. The name of the scarred ex-soldier she'd spotted at the mill emerged: Garrett Hale, formerly of a private security firm with rumored ties to foreign weapons dealers. If Hale was present, the conspiracy ran deeper than anyone guessed. At midday, Mark rushed in with a pale face. "They're back on our property," he said. "A whole group of them. Viper, Goliath, Phantom, plus a few men I haven't seen before." Sarah set aside her notes. "Let's go, welcome them." Outside, 6 motorcycles and 2 black SUVs were arranged in a loose semicircle around the ranch house. Viper stood front and center, hands on hips, exuding that aura of smug superiority. His associates fanned out, trying to look casually intimidating. Mrs. Caldwell Viper greeted loudly as she and Mark appeared on the porch. "We're through asking nicely. This land is ours for the right price." "Name it." Sarah held Mark's hand to project unity. "Not selling," she said softly. Behind Viper, Phantom sneered. Goliath clenched a massive fist, knuckles. White Viper's eyes darkened. "Shame we had such a fair offer. Now I'm forced to persuade you differently." Just then, an engine approached from the road. Deputy Jordan Wyatt's patrol car. She stepped out, camera rolling. Viper barked a curse. "Something wrong?" Jordan asked with airy innocence. "I heard raised voices." She had no illusions that the sheriff would back her, but a visible camera still forced criminals to be cautious. Viper grunted, turning to Sarah. "I'll give you one last day by tomorrow if you haven't signed. We do this the hard way." He gestured to Goliath, who hammered a condemnation notice onto the fence. The words sprayed in red paint. Eviction. The bikers and SUVs peeled away, heading north again. Jordan exhaled. "I count at least 4 heavily armed men. Probably more inside those SUVs. Sarah's voice was calm as stone. "Tonight, they'll make their big move. We won't give them a chance to slip away." They set the plan in motion. Jordan discreetly alerted a trusted contact in the state police, who in turn reached out to federal agents. Helen would prepare to treat the inevitable wounded. Mark and Jill Parker would coordinate with other community members, ensuring no one got caught in a crossfire. Meanwhile, Sarah would do what she did best, gather proof and, if needed, neutralize threats. By sundown, word spread that Bain's outlaws were gathering at the old mill trucks, SUVs and bikes forming a small army. They were mobilizing. Sarah posted herself on the ridge again, watching as powerful floodlights illuminated crates of weaponry. Garrett Hale directed men in tactical vests while Viper paced on his phone, shouting about deadlines and buyers. As the night deepened, a second convoy arrived, black SUVs with foreign plates. Men stepped out who moved with lethal efficiency. A hush fell over the outlaws, deferring to these new arrivals. Through her rifle scope, Sarah glimpsed them unloading smaller, heavier crates, possibly containing advanced electronics or experimental arms. Suddenly, Helen's voice came through Sarah's earpiece. Federal teams just crossed into county lines. Jordan says they'll be in position soon. Sarah smirked. Showtime, she fired a single suppressed shot into the air above the mill. No one was harmed, but the bullet shattered a lamp near Viper, and hail sparks raining down. It was enough to sow panic. Immediately, the outlaws scanned the ridgelines, shouting to each other to find the sniper. They had no idea who they were dealing with. In the chaos, the federal strike team arrived from the west. Lights flashing, engines revving, state troopers converged from the south. Over comms, Jordan's voice. We've got them pinned on three sides. Like cornered animals, the outlaws attempted to flee north. But Sarah had anticipated that an old logging road was blocked by a row of local trucks and armed ranchers, men and women who refused to let criminals tear apart their community. Mark stood among them, stoic but determined, a shotgun at his side. Goliath, Phantom, and a handful of bikers roared forward on their motorcycles. Guns drawn, a burst of gunfire erupted. Mark's heart hammered, but he stuck to the plan, diving for cover behind a tractor as ranchers returned fire. Phantom took a bullet in the shoulder, toppling onto gravel with a cry. Goliath skidded to a halt and raised his hands when faced with half a dozen outraged locals aiming rifles. At the mill, the scene became total pandemonium. Sirens shouting, the whir of helicopter blades overhead. Federal agents rushed in quickly, surrounding the trucks of contraband weapons. The men in black SUVs tried to blast their way out, but they found the exit blocked by a rapid deployment SWAT vehicle. Viper, Morrow, and Garrett Hale, caught in the thick of it, retreated into a side warehouse. Hale used advanced night vision gear to pick off two troopers, wounding them before disappearing behind crates. Sarah followed his heat signature through her rifle's thermal scope. When he paused to reload, she fired. The bullet tore through Hale's weapon, disabling it. Shocked, he froze, then scrambled to the ground, cursing as troopers pinned him. Viper ran for the mill's office, cursing Sarah's name. He kicked open a back door, sprinting along catwalks over stacks of lumber. With the troopers occupied, he thought he might escape. But Sarah had already descended from her vantage point. Quiet as a shadow, she intersected him on a platform above a mechanical saw. He aimed a pistol. She ducked behind a pillar. His shot ricocheted. Sarah signaled a warning over comms, ensuring no trooper rushed in blindly. Carefully, she circled behind him. In a single swift motion, she knocked the gun from his hand. Viper lunged with a switchblade, cursing every step. Sarah sidestepped, grabbed his wrist, and disarmed him, sending the blade clattering onto the catwalk. She pressed him against the railing with an iron grip. "You should have checked who you were messing with," she said in a low voice. Nearby troopers arrived, weapons drawn. Viper sagged in defeat. Soon the entire property was under federal control. Bikers lay cuffed on the ground. The men from the black SUVs were lined up, any illusions of diplomatic immunity dashed by the evidence now broadcast to multiple agencies. Crates of illegal arms were seized, confirming an international smuggling ring. By dawn, the sun rose on a transformed Bitterwood Valley. Sheriff Nichols was exposed for taking payoffs. Several local officials who had rubber-stamped suspicious property deals were arrested. Bain's Outlaws had been dismantled, their leadership facing a long list of charges from racketeering to conspiracy to import illegal arms. In the quiet aftermath, Sarah walked the scorched ground around the mill. Her old sniper rifle was slung over her shoulder. She nodded to Jordan Wyatt, who wore a relieved smile. Federal agents moved methodically, cataloging contraband, questioning prisoners, and praising the vigilance of the local community. Mark found Sarah near the perimeter fence where she was removing one last hidden camera. He gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Is it finally over?" he asked. She exhaled. "Here in Bitterwood." "Yes, but the investigation will spread far beyond us. We've done our part." Dr. Helen Carter, stepping around a trooper's van, overheard them. "There's talk of overseas ties, a bigger network, but at least we've cut off their route here." Sarah gazed across the valley at the ranches saved from forced sales. Families wouldn't have to flee their homes in fear. Her once hidden identity as ghost links might come to light, but if that was the price of protecting the valley, she accepted it. "It's enough," she said quietly. Helen and Mark nodded. The wind carried the smell of pine and the promise of renewal. And though Sarah Caldwell had never wanted to revisit that lethal part of her past, she felt no regrets. She had defended her land, her people, and her home. In the following days, Bitterwood Valley steadied itself. Jill Parker reopened her store with relief. Annie Howell fixed her barn windows. Dr. Carter's clinic, helped by community donations, replaced the destroyed X-ray machine. A renewed sense of unity rose among ranchers who had once feared standing alone. Sometimes you had to fight in order to keep peace. Sometimes evil men believed they could crush the innocent. Yet they had never faced the quiet wrath of a rancher who once painted deserts red on top-secret missions. That was the final lesson for the Baines Outlaws. Behind the gentle facade of a rancher's wife could dwell a warrior forged in the harshest battles. And in Bitterwood Valley, nobody would ever again underestimate Sarah Caldwell, the Marine sniper known as Ghost Lynx. As dawn breaks over Bitterwood Valley, the smoldering remains of the lumber mill mark the end of a nightmare. Sarah Caldwell, America's forgotten hero, has dismantled the outlaw gang and exposed a conspiracy that reached the highest levels. Neighbors rebuild veterans, reclaim their dignity, and families celebrate justice, restored thanks to one woman's courage under fire. Sheriff Nichols and the corrupt officials behind him face their day in court, and the criminals learn a hard lesson. Never underestimate a quiet American patriot who knows the true price of freedom. Gentlemen, what did you think of this incredible true story? Have you ever witnessed courage like Sarah's? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe for more heroic tales that make you proud to be an American. Until next time, stay strong, stay vigilant, and God bless America.